At this time, I'd like to call to order the City Muskego Landfill Standing Committee for February 19th, 2024. It's 5:03 p.m. Would the secretary please read the roll?
Abby Lipke. For the record, Abby is absent. Patrick Murray.
Here.
Mark Slocum.
Here.
Scott Kowalski.
Here.
Harvey Schweitzer.
Here.
Alderperson Eileen Madden.
Here.
Greg Burmeister.
Here.
Roland Kiefer.
Yes.
Other representatives, Dan Olzelberger from GFL.
Here.
Chad Siegel from GFL. Joe Spear Jr. from JSA.
Here.
And Recording Secretary Scott Krieger. Here.
Statement of public notice.
This meeting was properly noticed in accordance with the open meeting laws of the state of Wisconsin.
New business, discussion, update, and possible action may be taken on any of the following. We have one item here for tonight, and that's to discuss the GFL EPL Phase 8 construction schedule with night shifts. To start this off and to explain what's intended to happen, I would like Dan, who is the landfill general manager, using that map up there, which I assume you can see out there, to explain what's going on and impacts to various parts of the community, because I know there's a lot of interest in terms of what's going on.
That's why they swell.
Okay, maybe just a little background. As the committee members know, we started a new cell construction actually last October for a little over 10-acre cell. We have been diligently moving material as part of a mass excavation for that cell. Since that time, we have approximately 1.7 million cubic yards of material to move as part of that cell construction. To date, we have moved a little over 800,000 cubic yards of that material, so we're roughly about 50% complete. When you look at our overall schedule of completion, given our current remaining airspace, we really need to have the cell completed by September, I'll say October of 2024. There was a schedule that was provided as part of the packet of information. It's a schedule that was provided by Carson, who has joined me in the audience here tonight as the project manager for Riverview. It kind of looks at that September, October completion timeline, and if you kind of work yourself back from that, you know, we've got some challenges ahead of us to meet that schedule without, you know, interrupting service and providing the, you know, the service to the community and the customers and those types of things. Right now, with just operating from, let's say, 6 in the morning till 6 at night, we would not be able to meet the construction schedule as identified. And unfortunately, in order to do that, we've identified the need to operate an evening, an overnight shift from 6 p.m. till 6 a.m. And again, given the tightness of the schedule, even with that, we're going to have our challenges to meet the completion date of, September, October of this year. We certainly understand the need to, look at some things as it relates to minimizing impacts on on the neighbors, both from a lighting and the noise standpoint. And, what we've identified in the information that's provided is there is I think, a very critical screening berm identified just to the south of the excavation. And I can, I guess, get up and try to point that out.
Yes. The gut person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amen.
That area.
The work on that screening berm required DNR approval, which we just received last week. And Carson, I think we're looking at starting that as soon as late this week. Is that correct? Okay. And it should take roughly 2 weeks, weather dependent, to complete that screening berm. The work on that berm would be done just during the day shift. We would not look to do that material in the evening. The other commitments, I guess, that we would make would be as part of that overnight shift, that all the material would be moved to the north. We have existing stockpiles to the south that people have probably seen some activity on if they've gone down 8 Mile Road. But anything associated with the overnight shift would be sent to the screening berms in the areas to the north where the impacts to the neighbors would be a lot less significant. We currently are, maybe 30 feet into that cut, 35 feet into the cut. So really all of the activities within the cell right now are kind of down in a hole, I'll call it. So I think from a visual standpoint, the impacts would be fairly minimal. And I think the critical aspect of that berm to the south is that will provide a much needed break for any potential noise or lights associated with the traffic. We obviously will need some lighting for the construction, but again, around the excavation itself, that lighting would be certainly down towards the excavation, not anywhere towards 8 Mile or the surrounding neighbors. And then anything along the travel path or the stockpiles of the north, we could certainly position in such a way that we don't believe it would impact anybody to the north, which is less residentially populated anyways. Our purpose here tonight is obviously to request the approval for the overnight shift. It would be for a fairly short period of time. We've asked through the end of May. If you look at the schedule, item number 3 shows mass excavation actually completing by May 15th. So with good weather and good production, we would hope to finish sooner than that. And that hopefully will allow us to move into the other phases of the cell construction and get the cell completed, by the September, October timeframe that I identified. If we cannot move this material in this fashion, it probably is going to result in us having to divert waste from the landfill and reduce the incoming tonnage to the facility.
On your berm,
Yeah.
how high is that going to be? Can you give me a rough figure on that? Us?
And what's identified up here is we've actually been able to expand and increase the size and the height. So the height of the berm is roughly 35 40 feet from current grade. And it expands a little bit farther to the west than what is shown up on the drawing.
On the drawing, it shows a dotted line hook going north. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, that would be right. What is that?
I think those were areas that were identified for potential additional soil. I think there are some wetlands that you start creeping up in that area. So wherever we could put or can put material without impacting wetlands has been our goal.
Yep.
The,
You're not in the sections.
just to,
Should be down to the ground.
And part of the reason we're here, unfortunately, is the success of the volume that we did see in 2023. We were up about 40% compared to the previous year in our gate volume, and much of that came in the second half of the year. And once we realized the need for the next cell and the timing, unfortunately we got, I'll say, caught a little bit with the timing of the next cell. And the other critical part of the overall schedule is with the September-October timeline identified for completing the cell, given the request for the overnight shift, is without that, it potentially pushes our completion date, into the November-December timeline. And granted, the falls and winters have been pretty mild recently, but if we run into weather conditions that would not allow us to complete the cell, that would potentially push us into the spring of 2025. And that would significantly impact our gate volumes and would turn us into a pretty quiet landfill for a while because of the volume restrictions we would have. So.
Okay. Questions, comments?
I got a question.
Go ahead.
Make sure my, you said the height of the berm was going to be 35 to 40 feet?
Yep.
Is that from the 8 Mile Road elevation, or is that from your land elevation?
I'm just kind of looking at the drawing. I think that should correspond with the 8 Mile Road elevation.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, I have one for you. If, when we get done tonight, and say you finally get approval, would you be willing to move temporary screens, which right now you use litter screens, but something on that fashion with tarps if we find that there's an issue with somebody's being blasted all the time because of inadequate berm?
I think if there are impacts that cannot be addressed through the existing berm, we would be open to looking at alternatives.
Okay.
I'm assuming that this is an issue you can't rectify by adding more metamaterial? Men equipment?
Certainly, I'm going to ask for Carson's help on this, but we've been hitting it with pretty heavy crew already on the day shift.
yeah, we have 2 crew working this shit. Hard to line stand and resolve.
We're gonna need you on the mic.
Say who you are, your name, and then what.
Yeah, I'm Carson Petton with Riverview Construction. We have two crews working on the day shift currently running north and south, so roughly 30 employees. We've tried staffing a little bit more and we saw that production actually slows down just because of
Getting
haul
away of
routes.
each
and-
other. I get that. That's why I just had to ask that question.
Yep.
Okay, how many trucks are you running right now?
We're currently running up to 24 trucks.
And that's about the maximum you can have?
That's the maximum we can do during the day shift, correct?
I'd like to ask, what has put you behind schedule?
Well, yeah, that's not their issue. That's a GFL issue. I mean, again, our volumes of 2023 have shortened the remaining capacity of the landfill. And we didn't anticipate that amount of volume, to be honest with you. Probably should have done a better job of doing that. But with the significant volume cutting into our remaining capacity, that was more of an issue than anything else. We weren't planning on doing any excavation at all in 2023. And once we kind of saw where things were going, we made the commitment to getting started as quickly as we could. Unfortunately, it wasn't quick enough.
Okay.
What's the impact of the freeze-thaw cycle on your hauling capability?
It's definitely made production slower. We're fighting through the freeze-thaw cycles. In the morning, it's been fairly well. In the afternoon, when the sun comes out, the site gets a little greasier. It makes trucks slow down a lot.
I guess if you start working in the evening, obviously it's going to be a little firmer. But what precautions are we taking for the well pipes, gas pipes? Where are we in proximity to any of those?
Yeah, everything is being handled on a perimeter road where really there should be no issues with the current fill and the infrastructure of the current fill. I know we do come along a little bit on the west side as we come along the original phases of the landfill, but it's a fairly wide road, and I'm sure you'll be providing some lighting and such in that area.
Yeah, we have a light plan for that area. And
Yeah.
then we also have been using concrete jersey barriers where there's any existing infrastructure that needs to be protected.
And the lighting is going to be generator operated, or how's that going to be? How's the electricity being produced?
It's run off of a small diesel engine.
Nice, quiet one? I'm serious.
Yeah, so a lot of the newer light plants are lower decibel ratings. They're LED lights. They're more efficient. You don't have to have as big of a generator, so smaller engines. So it should be quieter, yes.
What are we looking at, the number of pieces of equipment that's going to work at night? The same as during the day?
So we're going to be reducing the amount of equipment at night, running roughly 8 to 10, maybe up to 12 haul trucks at most, and then 1 to 2 dozers,
Okay.
and then 1 excavator. So roughly 15 employees will be on site at night.
Okay, thank you.
Are you using quarry-type haul trucks or conventional road trucks, or?
No.
All the materials being moved with off-road haul trucks, articulating trucks.
Is this going to have any impact on runoff into the wetlands more than what it would if you were to not get this approval?
I don't think the impact will differ depending on the approval or not. The operations, the haul routes that we're using during the day that we'd use at night. We have a small crew that goes through and cleans up roads weekly, making sure that wetlands aren't disturbed. All of our site right now is internally draining, making sure that all the stormwater is collected and pumped through the proper sediment basins.
And if you drive by, even from what you can see, like from 45 and a little bit on 8 Mile, we've got silt fence everywhere. So, that'll obviously remain in place. And, the contractor and the CQA consultant does daily checks of that as well, just to make sure that those protections are in place.
Joe?
The excavation's already started, so the area that produces most of the water that would be running to the wetlands and so on is now a sink. So even though the stockpile is going to go in, that'll increase the speed in which some of the water will flow to the wetlands and so on. Overall, the massive impact of the excavation means that the only water flowing will be that stockpile and a little bit of area around it. When they do have rain or they have thaw, they'll control it by pumps, and they only have certain basins they can go to, and those basins are sized. So the overall stormwater has been approved via the DNR and via through the city with the first pass-through on the construction.
Just for everyone's benefit, Mr. Spear is part of a firm that the committee and also the city hires to perform weekly audits at the landfill and also to give us his engineering input on what he sees and how that would impact other operations around. So he's not part of the city directly, and he's not part of the landfill by any means. Go ahead.
When I was going through the review, the two buildings, are they going to be removed daytime so that their demolition isn't part of the noise, or?
Are you talking the north?
There's the two structures. There's the silo and the old
I
garage.
think-
Or are they already gone?
I think everything is gone.
All the barns have
Everything
been
is gone,
demoed.
Barns
yes.
are gone.
Yeah, everything's gone.
Well, that shows I just reviewed the paperwork.
Yeah. Yep.
Did I hear that you just got DNR approval for,
Just that screening berm. Yeah, it was, like I said, we increased the size of it. So when we did that, we had to go back to the department and they reviewed it to make sure primarily no impacts to the wetlands.
was that holding you up before coming to us then?
That process occurred about a month ago with DNR approval just being received a couple weeks ago.
DNR was Thursday of last week.
Was it
for
Thursday?
approval.
Yeah.
Further questions, comments from the committee?
I've got
Go ahead,
one
Scott.
more. If we approve this and we have a big number of complaints, what mechanism is there to react to that?
I would like to say that we have another meeting within 2 weeks to address exactly that.
Actually, this whole process is a two-step process, and you're the first part of it. So this just allows your approval is approval through the contract. In addition to that, we have city ordinances on noise and construction. So that's part two. I can control part two, and council can override me on it since this is a temporary thing. So if there are noises or other concerns, we can address it through the city because we can revoke that permit on our own, so it wouldn't need to go through you guys.
One other comment, just to make sure, Dan, and I want to make sure we had two requests in, one for extended hours on Saturday and for the nighttime in there. I hope you all read the memo. Is there any other times that you need? Because I don't want to come back. No one else wants to come back here. And we want to make sure that everyone knows those exact times. So the two times I had on there was 12 to noon, or from noon to 4 on Saturdays, and then operating second shift from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. The Saturday time to end on May 18th. And the nighttime to end on May 31st on Monday.
Yeah, I think certainly the overnight hours, which is the one I think of most concern to people. I mean, we're pretty firm on that May timeline. I mean, you can see from the schedule again, as provided by Riverview, there's I guess optimism that we can finish even before that. The Saturday hours, it's a little hard to predict. I mean, as you know, and we've, I think, come to the committee in the past, when like the geosynthetic crew comes on site, I mean, they got to get that thing blacked out, over whatever time weather allows. And I think we've come to the committee in years past for, extended weekend hours in those situations. But As of right now, I think we're comfortable with these 2 requests.
Okay. Just so that everyone know, those are the 2 requests only that are being asked.
Harvey?
I guess if there's noise or light issues, what is going to be a workable contact? To be honest, you guys haven't been really quick on the draw when we've had complaints in the past. You know, somebody just got woke up at midnight because of whatever dump truck had to slam its box or do whatever happened. You give us a phone number to call, well, that's great, but nothing's happening till tomorrow morning, if even then. And I guess, unfortunately, the track record of response concerns me. And how can we address that a little better?
I think we can provide the foreman's number at that point in time, and I'll provide my number.
Okay, to who?
Whoever wants it.
Okay. Any other? Go ahead.
And I
Yeah, let
would
me
suggest
ask.
on that for the complaint process, we make Eileen earn her money because she is the alderman in the district. So she would probably get the complaints from the people anyway. So it would probably go through her. If it's off hours, business hours, they would call the city. We would have a direct input to the landfill and we're able to act a lot quicker than you as a committee because we don't have to call meetings. We don't have to do, I mean, I can do it unilaterally. If there's a problem that they can't address, I can literally threaten that day to pull the permit. So I think that's motivation for them to be reactive. And like I said, from a contact standpoint, off hours, I would say Alderman Madden would be the best contact on that. And then daytime hours, obviously City Hall, myself and Scott.
So you're saying you don't want them to contact the foreman at midnight? Rather than
If
call Eileen
if
at 3
Eileen
o'clock in
if
the
Eileen
morning?
gets the complaint and wants to call the foreman at midnight, that's that's part of her job. So
Okay.
I do already have both their numbers.
Say you get a call at night, dump truck gates banging or light shining in their eyes. What can you do about it?
Well, I mean, we can certainly have a conversation as to what the circumstances are that might be leading to that situation. And other than that, I mean, we can apply what I would call best practices to try to minimize those situations, whether it be the construction of the berm, the flow of traffic to minimize, any kind of backup alarms, those types of things. So, and that's the best answer I can give you right now.
Okay.
So just to be clear, there won't be any banging of tailgates. I think the 2 loudest noises with equipment is a lot of times the banging of tailgates and then obviously the equipment running. With the banging of tailgates, the loud impact typically travels the furthest. So we do run quite a bit of night shifts. Quad axle dump trucks are notoriously loud with the banging of the tailgates. With the off-road tailgates, they raise and lower with a chain, so there's always tension on the tailgate, so they never bang when they're dumping the load. So the biggest complaint that could potentially will be the lights from shining on neighbors, which I think we can mitigate by making sure they're pointed in the right direction, and then also just the general equipment running, which everything we have on site is Tier 4 final, so it's quiet, emission regulated, not straight piped, so it's your standard construction equipment.
Further comments, questions from the committee? It's okay with the committee. I'd like to open it up to people from the floor at this time. Yeah, I'm sorry. Please come up, state your name.
Just speak your name.
Address.
And then say what you need. It's all on. You're good to go.
Tad Pawalis, 21341 8 Mile Road. This landfill is directly across the street from my house. You guys should be embarrassed that you even took this meeting tonight because there was no public notice of this until today. That letter is dated today. Nobody knew about this. Half my neighbors didn't know about it. I didn't find out until today. That's wrong. You should have never held this meeting. Public meetings should be held after people get notification. One day is not acceptable. To hold this thing 24 hours a day, if this was in front of your house, would you be happy? Think about it a minute. I don't care about the lighting. The lighting, you can turn them, that's fine. The silt fence you're worried about, who cares? You know, that isn't the problem. It's the noise of this equipment that's gonna be running 24 hours a day. And then you sit there and say it's a short period, that's 3 months, 5 days a week. Really? Do you go to work every day listening to equipment run all night? Your kids gotta listen to it all night and then go to school the next day? Really? That's not right. Think about this a minute. Why are you 3 months behind? You had the mildest winter we've had in years. You had one bad week that you couldn't dig. So why are you 3 months behind? Maybe you hired a contractor that didn't own enough equipment. 3 months? That isn't our fault as neighbors. Why should we have to listen to trucks run 24 hours a day because you're in a hurry to get this thing dug now? That's wrong. I'm sorry, that is wrong in every way. You know, I'm sorry, and there's other neighbors that live, your little berm you're putting up, that's not gonna stop the noise. There's a whole section right east of that you can't berm because it's swamp. So all the noise and everything is gonna come right through that hole, right to all of our houses. So think about an excavator. Let me know what your addresses are, because I'm gonna drop off one of these earth moving machines and a couple of excavators and just let them idle in front of your house for the night. And then come talk to me about it. I called the town of Norway today. They didn't even know this was taking place. They had to make phone calls to find out what was going on. Really? That's not how we should find out about this stuff. You're supposed to be a good neighbor? Well, you're not being a good neighbor by trying to jam this out the back door and having a quick meeting to sit there and push this thing through. That's wrong. Think about it. Give me your address. Let's park some excavators across the street from your house. Thank you.
Anyone else? Come on, there's got to be more. You got to have unless we did such a fantastic job of answering your questions. I don't believe that.
Name, address.
Carter Shelton, 21621 8 Mile Road. Just a quick question for clarification. On the screen berm, that's only going to get worked on during the day hours, not at night, correct? Regardless of thaw, freeze, just during the, okay. Okay, yep.
Speaking of that berm, are you going to be running at night prior to the berm being completed? And that'd be kind of defeating the purpose if you put the berm in after you've started.
So we are currently putting the silt fence in for the berm today. We're going to start stripping the area for the berm probably by tomorrow or Wednesday. And then we're going to put emphasis on building the south side of the berm, so the closest to 8 Mile Road, to create the screening berm. We won't have the entire berm completed before we'd like to start running at nights, but we'll have, call it maybe 20 feet of elevation change between the 8 Mile Road and the top of the berm at that time.
So we can figure a minimum of 20-foot elevation change before you start working at night?
If 20 feet would satisfy the board, then yes, we can commit to 20 feet.
I said a minimum. Yes.
Yes.
I don't know that it satisfies the board. I just asked the question.
So yes, we could commit to that if that would be a condition of the permit.
Come on up, sir.
Paul Downs, 21735 8 Mile Road. What if we have an extremely wet spring? Are we going to spend our summer listening to this? Are we going to come back to another meeting? Because it sounds like you need to have a place to go with this or your business is severely impacted. So our weather patterns are changing. What if we have a really wet spring? So, and you can't get this done in 90 days. And then my other question is regarding this berm, how far does it go to the east? Some of the neighbors, there, because there's wetlands there. And then we had the barn and the silo that were torn down that you were unaware of. And then there's 2 drives that went to those old houses that were there. And I'm concerned about, are those drives going to be taken out as part of this berm process? That there's not, because that would impact the berm if you leave those roads as an access point going in.
I think there's 2 roads.
2 roads.
Yeah, so I think the one to the west,
One is blocked by a tire right now.
it gets taken out.
The higher road will stay.
Then the one to the west of that goes, right?
So there'll be traffic there? There'll be traffic on that road, or why would it stay?
No traffic,
But
no.
why would it stay then?
So,
Design, I guess.
with the wetlands, yeah. And the offset of the wetlands.
So how close does that berm come to that road to screen for the residents that are directly across from there? Because that, I think myself and maybe the house to the east of me are gonna get some benefit from this berm, but I don't know about the rest of the residents as you go east.
If you remember, there was a small water mill sticking out last fall, very small, maybe 10, 15 feet high.
Where?
Right where you discussed. So there is a much larger berm going in place.
There is no berm in front of,
There was. That is located. It's the Eagles Nest.
Let's not speak up about
That was removed for the excavation. So, but there, treated berm, historically, there was a small berm there for a long time.
I guess I'm not understanding where you're talking of.
So if you go to the grades on the Selby Shores, as we're coming up the slope here, or if you look in front of the berm that is inside, if you were going to the top of the screen,
Towards the top?
correct, there was a berm, there was a screening berm there that was made by the study just as a place on mud. And that was removed, and that's what opened up the view to what we got to see now. So this berm is much larger, much longer, much wider than what historically.
But there's also a cell going in there too. It's not the same thing as it was before you opened up that cell.
And I'm very serious.
If you're, I guess, Chad, if you're at the Anderson driveway, which is the one to the west,
Yes.
I think the berm you're referring to was east of the silos.
He said it was in the second, it was in the center of it was in the center of the area, just east where the barn silo was.
To the east.
It blocked out just about any view going to the north.
Okay, so what's going to replace that now? This is going to go up to, going to go past the first driveway to the west, come up short of the furthest east. But when you're at the eastern driveway and you go east, what are you going to do to block for the berm you took out? Because that's the real, that berm is what's going to protect most of the people that came tonight.
This one will be,
It's only going to go up to just past Anderson's driveway though.
right, the old berm, the driveway to the east you're talking about.
Correct.
Right into the woods.
Right.
Right, and then to the west of that was the berm. That was the berm. And it separated basically the activities of concrete crushing and the old compost, the screening berm for those two activities.
You have to come up to the mic.
And,
That,
and
I live like right across the street.
Please,
So I mean, just to add some clarity, at the furthest east road,
you
there
have your
will,
name, sir?
Carter Shelton, 216-218 Mile
Thank you.
Road. At that furthest east road, there will not be a berm past that because of the wetland.
yeah, if you look at,
Yeah.
you can
So-
see that little finger that comes
Yeah,
up
I mean,
on-
that road is a delineation of the wetland to where
Pretty much.
it's where it's gonna end, just for clarity of, that's what it's gonna look like.
Yeah.
There will be no berm to the east of that road
Correct,
at all. It can't.
correct.
Hope that clears it up.
So you're gonna have a gap from that road to getting them storage. Yes. Should be. Right, covered.
I guess I'm curious if there isn't something further back. There's a pond at the end of that east driveway. But to the north of where that pond was, if there was an ability to put a berm of some sort, I don't know if there's enough land outside of wetland behind that pond. But I think the big concern is if you're on 8 Mile Road looking northwest, there's a huge opening that's going to be exposed to potential noise drift. And a lot of it's where the odor issues are right now. I don't know if there's something can be done about it or not.
I would like to get some sort of an answer to the first part of the question was with regards to weather and if we have a wet spring, because that didn't get answered.
Carter Shelton again. So my question would be, was there ever a plan to extend the berm up, it would be north of that little bit of wetland, and curve it around? I don't see anything up there. There's a field that's not wetland. Was there ever any design to extend that berm further east to fill that gap, I guess is what I'm asking.
Right now, there's a sedimentation area off of the berm scheduled for that area. I'd have to go back to the consultant and see if maybe we could flip that to the west. I don't know.
The sedimentation pond is for?
Runoff off of the berm, stormwater control.
Okay. The question was raised about what happens if you get a wet spring? Really wet spring. What does that do? How do you handle it? How do you address it? You got your construction manager here.
Yeah.
So maybe to help put context, we've worked through what I would consider a fairly unfavorable winter. I know warm weather, normally most people think is good. When you're trying to move large amounts of earth during the day in warm weather in the wintertime, there's no drying, and then the freeze thaw of daily action creates a very tough excavation operation. So what I would like to think is that with all the snow being gone, with the melt, rain typically delays us a day, where a freeze thaw can delay us a week. So I would like to think that we shouldn't see those impacts to our schedule. The schedule that I did give Dan included a few of those inclement weather days. However, no one can predict the weather, so I can't say one way or another how it would affect us. A 1/4 inch of rain, we might be able to run the next day, or we may not, depending on where we're at in the cut and how the site conditions look.
I do a quick question for you. When you take into account your schedule for construction and you talk about, you put in a few days for the wet spring, do you just go back and look at historically what springs have been like in this area when you do that?
Yeah, so we do a lot of work in the area. We do actually quite a bit of winter excavation in this specific region, the southern region of the state. So we have quite a bit of experience working throughout. Most contractors shut down from, call it November to May. The last 2 years down here, we've worked straight through. So we have a pretty good historic knowledge, not decades, obviously, of looking back. But we've also done taking our averages per day that we've moved on site thus far and then kind of extrapolated it out over the spring.
Okay. Joe?
Will there be any virgin area still to cut by the time the stockpile's in place?
There are currently no virgin areas of the cut.
So anything that's not to be done will already be done in the depression?
Correct. We are roughly 35 feet into the excavation.
Batzer, 21647 8 Mile Road. When is this berm supposed to start, and when is it supposed to be completed?
So the berm, the silt fence was put in today, and tomorrow we're going to start stripping it this week, and then we're going to be starting to fill it either end of the week or early next week. Estimated completion is between 2 to 3 weeks for the entire 80,000 yards of the berm.
What happens if it's not wet, and now we're moving all this dirt in spring, summer, and dust mitigation? I don't care if it's wet, that keeps dust down. Are we using water trucks to water down soil if it's?
Yeah, so we have an on-site water tanker. Chad has an on-site water tanker, so we've been applying dust control as needed. If the roads get dusty or if Chad gets complaints, we've been applying as needed.
And then also one more thing, my kids would like to know where the eagle nest got relocated to. Never seen anybody taking anything down, just cutting down trees, making a pile. How is that able to be done with the DNR? They still fly around looking for a place. If you take an eagle nest down, don't you have to rebuild one?
I gotta admit, I wasn't aware of an eagle nest.
Oh, there's people that drive down the road that don't even live there and sit there and watch and take pictures. Everybody knows about the eagle nest.
I don't have a response for that, I'm sorry.
If you work there, if you're ever there, you see eagles, you see seagulls, right? Do you ever see a seagull?
I do.
And you never see the eagles that fly around?
We've seen eagles, yes.
Because there's a nest right up that road where that tire was.
Still there, gone, what? Harvey?
To like a tree stump.
So the nest
Dust is back.
Okay. Anyone else? Any further discussion from the committee?
Just one question. Joe, will you be spending additional time monitoring this operation?
If the committee requested, of course.
Okay, so that's,
I have no reason not to, but I mean, I wouldn't just jump forward and do it. It still counts as an operation at the landfill. It still falls under the
This
engineering,
would
I
fall under
understand.
construction.
Yeah. And I do have separate construction audits, not really for this situation, but it does cover it.
I think you're gonna have to look at doing construction audits during the day and also at night. And I don't mean 7 o'clock at night, I'm sorry.
I'll write something up for Scott. Just make it a task order.
Greg Patzer again. Are we able to get a decibel rating of what it's going to be during the day and what it is at night? Because I tell you what, when I came home from work this afternoon, it was awfully loud. What are we looking at for noise levels at night? Because that light plant that shines right there by the roadway at the tire, I mean, that shines out willy-nilly too.
If it's decided that there needs to be some decibel readings along 8 Mile Road, we certainly wouldn't object to having that done.
Will you be here to upstairs daytime? You're definitely here at night.
Joe, are you equipped to do sound level readings?
JSA did sound level for the first time when we did the the concrete demolition, when we were grinding that. I still have the equipment from that. We can get relative sound levels. I can't be on the roadside and point at a piece of equipment and guarantee I'm getting the equipment, but I'll get the ambient level.
What the committee is going to want to know is what's the sound like 5 feet off the ground at the road?
Okay.
Any other comments, concerns, issues? Yes, come on up, please.
One more question in regards to the screen berm that's currently on the plot. So just for clarification, there is nothing planned or even in the works to go east of what is on this plot right now, correct? So there will be that gap from that road to what the existing berm is?
Because of the wetlands, that's.
Because of the wetlands. There's nothing planned, no.
That's correct.
And that will probably forever stay an open area?
That's correct.
Until the DNR changes their mind and decides that mosquito-infested pothole can go.
Well, the mosquito-infested pothole is X amount of feet off the road. North of that is not mosquito-infested pothole. So I don't know exactly where the delineation is of wetland to farm field, because they farm just north of that wetland, mosquito-infested wetland. They farm that with tillage machines and everything. So I just was curious why it never even got proposed for any sort of berm, screen berm there at all. What I would hate to see is screen berm built, big gap, and then the berm, the rather large berm that's up to the east, up next to Highway 45. We've got some neighbors whose houses, there's 3 or 4 houses that are going to sit in that gap. That would be the concern.
Thank you. We got another one.
Hi, Ryan Brudos, 214-218 Mile Road. Yeah, I'm one of those houses that's going to be in that gap, and I have serious concerns about this. We're having a really hard time with the odor. It's been years of smell, of nonstop odor. And I anticipate this sound and additional odor is going to come right through that tunnel. So I'd really like some consideration for an additional berm or something to be done to mitigate the noise for this and potential future odor issues that have gone uncorrected.
Anyone else?
Tad Wallace, 213-41 8 Mile again. That little finger on the side there, you're telling us that you're never going to expand that dump further to the west? Ever in the future? Ever? Is that why you don't want to build a berm in that little finger?
No, I mean, we're not talking about the expansion, but if you look up, there are some wetlands that are in that area that, as it currently sits, would impact our ability to do more screening up in that area right now.
Currently. Not saying in the future it wouldn't happen.
No,
because you're going to apply for permits. We know you're going to apply for permits to move that wetland. You have in the past. So don't sit there and say you won't, because you have.
I didn't say that. So
that little finger there, you don't want to put dirt there to put a sound berm there because you don't want to take the dirt out of there later. Let's be a little bit more honest about it.
Okay, with sound.
Anyone else?
Ideally, this whole situation isn't ideal. We know we're going to be putting the neighborhood at a disadvantage for a period of time. And that's going to happen one way or the other. They have the approval to expand this cell. It's going to either get done through a long period of time by doing reduced hours or a short period of time with the expanded hours. You got to look at I hate to say it, but the better of the two evils. From our standpoint, I'll say the city standpoint, I would rather have it get done quickly and be done with it, almost like pulling the Band-Aid off. It's going to be this inconvenience. We're going to do our best from our standpoint to try to keep them in line. We're mitigating any problems from the neighborhood on it. Dan's never given, at least since I've been in office, any issue of working with us on fixing problems out there. Can we, at this point, account for every possible situation that could come up? No, but that's the idea. That's one of the beauties of having this two-step process here is yours is more global. I can get more micro into it and I can react to it in a day's notice on it. My authority on this is not legislative, it's executive, which allows me to work a lot quicker on these things. Having the landfill shut down is not only an interruption to their business, it's an interruption to all the taxpayers in Muskego as well, because we do collect money out of this thing. And this isn't all about money, but we have to look at that. The potential of up to $500,000 in loss of revenue for the city for that period of time would hurt us. And it's not all about money. We're going to try, but it's got to be considered. And I hate to throw that out there, but it's the truth. And I'm just trying to be transparent on this whole thing. So I think we should go forward with this, do our best to mitigate and make it the least disruptive for the neighborhood as possible. But if we can't, then we'll put a stop to it and make adjustments. But I think you need to hear that side of it.
With that, I would be looking for a motion to allow Phase 8 construction schedule with nighttime operation as requested by the landfill. And that was in the letter.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Pat? Discussion.
Just one point, we are meeting between now and the end of this approval period.
Yes.
As well. And I would like that added to the agenda for that meeting, a review of the operation to date of that meeting.
Mark, you have two requests for two different things. You're going to do two different motions or incorporate them both into one? You got a Saturday extended hours plus the nighttime operation.
We'll take the Saturdays separate.
Okay.
Any other discussion on the motion? Roll call vote.
Abby Lepke, absent. Patrick Murray.
Aye.
Mark Slocum.
Aye.
Scott Kowalski.
Aye.
Harvey Schweitzer.
Aye.
Alderperson Eileen Madden.
Aye.
Greg Burmeister.
Aye.
Roland Kiefer.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Second sub-motion for extending hours from 12 to 4 p.m. on Saturdays through May 17th, I believe. Is that correct?
May 18th.
May 18th.
So move.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion? Roll call.
Abby Lemke, absent. Patrick Murray.
Aye.
Mark Slocum.
Aye.
Scott Kowalski.
Aye.
Harvey Schweitzer.
Aye.
Alderperson Eileen Madden.
Aye.
Greg Burmeister.
Aye.
Roland Kiefer.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Me looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned at 6:02 p.m.